Since the first game came out in 2013 and the second in 2020, I've been playing The Last of Us 1 and 2 in an endless cycle, often finishing one and then finding the other is fresh enough for me to play again. The reason for this is because The Last of Us is the best example of the second type of game that I mentioned before, an RPG that has a deeper message and can really inform our everyday experiences. Plus, for a game that came out in 2013, it looks absolutely beautiful.
Listen to me. If I get into trouble down there, you make every shot count. Yeah?
I got this.
If you haven't seen The Last of Us aggressive gameplay clips, just look it up and you'll know what I mean.
Who's dead? Oh.
The context of The Last of Us is you play as Joel, a contractor who at the beginning of the cordyceps fungal epidemic loses his only daughter and becomes disconnected from his brother. Decades later, Joel is worn out from living a meager existence as a smuggler in one of the last remaining quarantine zones, partnering with Tess to smuggle goods in and out of the city, where his final object to transport is a young girl who is immune from the virus, taking her to a militant group called the Fireflies in order to create some kind of cure. I'm going to refer to 3 key quotes from the game to explain why The Last of Us can really help us in our everyday lives. In a moment where Ellie is tearing into Joel for him delegating the task of transporting her to his brother Tommy, Joel says, "You have no idea what loss is." To which Ellie replies, "Everyone I've loved has either left me or died."
You have no idea what loss is.
Everyone I have cared for has either died or left me.
I guess this is a point that can be generalized to all post-apocalyptic fiction, but The Last of Us deals with a fundamental truth, that life is pain. The bedrock of most religions is the fundamental reality that life is suffering, but this game asks the question, so what now? Loss reframes our priorities. We all have things in our lives that we think are really important, whether that's having a job, or buying a house, or having a new Tesla, things that consumer society tells us that we need in order to be happy. But imagine a world where these things don't matter. You can't drive a Tesla in the post-apocalyptic wasteland. So a shattered world where violence is now the measure of all things, post-apocalyptic fiction asks us, well, your mortgage and Tesla and your job are now gone. So in the end, what was really meaningful? Something you can try is to write out a list of the 3 most meaningful things in your life. And after you've written them out, rank them in order from the most meaningful to the least meaningful. What you'll find is most people will prioritize things that exist outside of material society. It would be weird to put your Tesla as number 1 and then your parents as number 2. Relationships are a really good example of this prioritization. After Ellie says that everyone she's loved has died, Joel's response, his choice, is to retake the responsibility of transporting her to the Fireflies.
Ellie, get off your horse. Give it on back to Tommy.
In that moment, he's making a choice to be the meaning in her life and also demonstrate a sense of empathy towards somebody else that has experienced loss as well. That's the choice that Joel makes in that moment in order to respond to loss. There are 2 moments where Ellie says this. One is after escaping the Boston Museum.
Was that everything you hoped for?
Jury's still out. But man, can't deny that view.
and the other is the famous giraffe scene that happens at the end of the game.
So, is this everything you were hoping for?
It's got its ups and downs, but you can't deny the view, though.
But you have to imagine that this pair has been close to death numerous times. But after all that suffering and tragedy, Ellie will stand by a railing or take a moment and just look at something that is beautiful, whether it's the gold of the Capitol building or this herd of giraffes that had escaped the zoo. And she'll say, "You can't deny that view." I think this is one of the ways that Ellie is trying to find meaning in a world that has lost its meaning, and that is through the medium of beauty and appreciating beauty in everyday and mundane moments. This is a question for you, but when was the last time that you really looked at the sky? To appreciate what was there the entire time, whether it's a beautiful blue sunny day or a dark stormy night, to just take a moment of appreciation for the beauty that has always existed. The world has been here for a lot longer than we have been alive, and after we die, the world is going to continue to be here. And a lot of consumer society is concerned with not being present, to be obsessed with either the past or the future, what we're going to do next. You're probably thinking after this video that you have to do X, Y, and Z. But when Ellie says that she can't deny that view, what she is implicitly claiming is that she is present-minded. That even in the worst of moments, it is still possible to appreciate beauty, and that beauty can give life meaning. An exercise you can try is to just look at the sky. Look at the clouds as they shift and change, or light as it reflects off the leaf of a plant, or a plane as it drifts from horizon to horizon. And then realize that that beauty was there the entire time. You just weren't paying attention to it because we are trained not to. We are trained in consumer society to always be occupied, to have these quick hits of dopamine, whether it's through a phone or a computer, or to constantly want to buy something to achieve that dopamine hit. Looking at the sky costs nothing. It's free. It doesn't benefit any corporation or make any money. And that makes it dangerous in our consumer climate. And by the end of the game, Joel has to make a crucial decision. They've trekked across the entire United States in order to make this vaccine from the body of Ellie, but it turns out that to make the vaccine, Ellie has to die. So Joel is faced with a crucial decision. Does he abandon this girl that he now considers his own daughter? Or for the benefit of millions of people that he's never met, does he sacrifice his only shot at a hopeful life? If you've played the game or watched the TV series, you will know what Joel picks. But Joel's justification, and the third quote, is at the very last cutscene of the game. He says, "No matter what, you continue to find something to fight for," or something like that.
I struggled for a long time with surviving. And no matter what, you keep finding something to fight for.
Joel would rather that the entirety of humanity die than to sacrifice Ellie. Why? Because Joel is implicitly claiming that it is better to live a hopeful existence than to live a hopeless existence and benefits a bunch of people that you've never met. Joel is not being a utilitarian when he makes this choice. You have to ask yourself, what are you fighting for right now? What is that thing that keeps you going? Everyone has something different. Maybe it's a relationship, or maybe it's God, or maybe it's some kind of activity or hobby that you do. Whatever it is, it's meaningful for you, and life would be less if you didn't have it. So a good thought experiment in this vein is, which would you rather? Would you rather to live in solitary confinement for the rest of your life, or would you rather be dead? I think most of us would rather death, because we recognize that a life without meaning or purpose or striving is not really a life at all. The Last of Us is ultimately an incredibly hopeful game. Even though the world is shattered, these two individuals continually strive and fight to maintain this relationship that is just so rare, and a relationship that ultimately gives them a sense of purpose. It's a reminder that we should never let ourselves become embittered by the world and by the hardships that can often surround us, to constantly look for sources of hope and meaning in our life, whether that is your grandma, or painting, or looking at the sky and appreciating beauty. And lastly, it's a constant reminder that even if we have lost all hope, hope is still something that is worth fighting for.